From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
That broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome into this Thursday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio on this rainy Thursday morning. Get ready, get your raincoats. I think it's going to rain in the area pretty much all day and night, which means you should head on over to the Oxford Exxon tonight, because when you're way home from work, just pick up some ribs. Don't worry about cooking. Don't worry about what are we going to eat. Go get some ribs, wet or dry. They'll be wrapped up and ready to go if you call ahead, or if you just want to stop by, they'll get them wrapped up and ready to go for you there at the Oxford Exxon in the Blue Sky location there on Highway 6 West in Oxford. And while you're in there, take your Stadium Cup in. 49 cents, they'll refill that bad boy, and you'll be able to quench your thirst for just 49 cents with the Stadium Cup from Blue Sky. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call that number. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what new Ford you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. You've heard that spiel for a while. It's really how it works. It's true. Here's what we ask of you. If you're in the market for a car, you think you might be in the market for a car, get in touch with Corey. Just get a quote. At the very least, let that be your baseline. Give them a chance to win your business. It's a simple phone call and ask for a quote. You'll get that quote usually by email, then about 15 minutes in business hours, and then you can go from there. 662-257-1900. You get great service after the sale. The people there are fantastic. I've now purchased 3 times from Clark Ford, and at only one of those times did I actually drive to Amory and look at the vehicle. They'll get it to you. They'll figure it out. So give them a chance to win your business, and when they do win your business, right before you close the deal, tell Corey you heard about Clark Ford on the podcast, and you'll save $500. 662-257-1900.
You don't want to see your vehicle before you purchase it?
I did see it. They brought it to me to look at it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, you said only once did I see my vehicle before I bought it.
So only once did I see it in Amory.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, you were brought one option, so I mean, you had to kind of like that option. I'm messing with you.
Yeah. I could have said, nope, that's not what I want.
Well, and it's not like we're getting a beater. You know what I mean? Like, it's a new vehicle. They're all going to look the same. You figure out you figure out what you want on it, and you can kind of trust what it's going to look like when it gets to your driveway.
Yeah, and there were 30 some odd pictures that were on my on the email that I had to look at it. So I had a fairly decent idea of what it would look like.
Okay. Greatest spot in the South up, is that right? Is it up?
Speaking of Clark Ford,
that's what I was thinking.
They have been. I don't get a lot of questions about it, so I'll answer it. Totally transparent.
Okay. We
are really close. We think we're told that we should be very optimistic about a
long-term sponsor.
A new long-term sponsor, but it's kind of a corporate sort of a thing. And corporate things take a little time. They have to go through marketing, and they have to go through a lot of different steps, and then they have to go through legal. And we're told that right now we're just waiting on getting the legal stamp of approval. We're told we should expect that will happen, and that we should be optimistic about it. That there's no reason that it wouldn't, but that's what we're waiting on. And you know me, I never count a chicken before it hatches. But Clark Ford, Clark Chevrolet, in large part because they're fans of Greatest Pod in the South. They think it's funny. And they like it, and they want it to continue. They don't want it to take a hiatus. Excuse me. So they have bridged it. So they're our sponsor. And in all seriousness, I said this on Greatest Pod in the South. I'll say it here quickly, and then we'll move on. If you like the podcast, if you don't like it, it's cool. If someone's making you listen to it, send one of us some kind of a message. We will get the police out, because you should not be held against your will, forced to listen to a podcast you don't want to listen to. But if you like the podcast and you've enjoyed it, do us a favor. The next time you're in the market for a vehicle, give them a call and at least let them give you a quote. That's it. Tell them you heard about it on the podcast and you wanted to hear what the quote would be. That's all we ask. Do that. That's all you have to do. people say all the time, man, I love that show. And my response to I love that show is now, if you love the show, it's all we ask of you to do. That's it.
Okay. You want to go and go to Jeffrey now? Or you want to wait? What do you want to do?
Oh, I'll say we go to him now. If he's ready to go,
he says he's ready to go.
We can do some live punch-in radio right here.
Let me tell him we're going live immediately. This is what you get with podcasts. You know what I mean? Like unlike radio, where everything's kind of like crisp and we're going to break. Here it's just like, hey, he's gonna link in and
it's organic.
It's organic. Get some of his draft takes.
Yeah, get some draft takes. Final Four's coming.
It is. All right. Let's see. How do I add him to the call? That'd be helpful. I probably need to know how to steer this ship.
Oh, it's okay. It's not the Exxon Valdez. It's all right.
Jeffrey Wright. Okay, he's online.
Did you ever listen to the podcast about the Exxon Valdez?
I did not. Let's not compare those two. That'd be great. I'd appreciate that, just for sponsors' sakes and whatnot.
Just that podcast was fascinating.
Okay. No, I have not. I'm really behind on some of my more like the newsworthy type podcasts.
The Harry Krishna series, which I thought would be terrible, is really good.
Okay. Do you listen to these narrative podcasts, Jeffrey, like the Exxon Valdez and all the more like news topic kind of stuff?
Not really. Not that I'm opposed to them, but I've kind of cut down on. I mean, it kind of depends. Also, like this weekend, I'll be in the car more, so I'll probably listen to more. But I don't really do like current event or true crime stuff. Not that I'm opposed to it. I don't like. I think a big problem of them is, y'all know this. I don't have fear of missing out. I have fear of buying in. And the last thing I want to do is waste 12 hours on a podcast that ends very flatly. So I kind of wait to start something until I know that it's good.
Yeah, Jeffrey makes fun of my wide variety of Bluetooth headsets that I own that I wear pretty much 24 hours a day. You're not one of the guys that just constantly has a podcast in your ear while you're just doing daily activity, are you?
No, because I'm also the guy that can't casually listen to a podcast. Like if I have a podcast on in the living room, I have to turn the TV off. Like I don't know what that says about me, but I if I'm listening to a podcast, I can't have anything else going on.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm the exact same way. Like driving back from Columbia, I was listening to I guess I was finishing Over My Dead Body. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple times that my brain would start to drift to something else, and I would hit the pause button because I realized I was missing details.
Yeah, I'm big on having to scroll back and whatnot.
It's got to be the certain show. Like you can listen to Corolla in passing, but you're probably not going to listen to some interview you're really interested in passing.
Correct. Or if it's a narrative thing, I don't think the same thing. I really enjoyed Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. But if it's a 4.5 hour podcast, that thing's going to take me probably maybe not twice as long, but it'll definitely take probably 6 hours for me to listen to it because there's so often, if I find myself drifting out, I'll have to go all the way back. And because obviously on narrative, context matters, sometimes I'll even have to scroll farther back because I want to make sure that, I fully comprehend what I'm listening to.
So dive in here. Neal and I were going to discuss this. We'll allow Jeffrey to partake as well. The Athletic has now gone into the Phil Longo bashing business as well. Reading this story about Dawson Knox. It's talking about the Cowboys and some of their interests. And here I'll just read a couple paragraphs here from the Athletic. There are many directions we can go with this information, but one player quite a few readers asked about early in the draft process was Ole Miss tight end Dawson Knox. Now that I can confirm the Cowboys' relative interest, let's dive in. First things first, ignore his stat line. Knox had 39 receptions in 2 full seasons at Ole Miss. He made 24 catches his sophomore year and just 15 last season. He also didn't have a single career college touchdown. I think you'll soon find that against all odds, it's not his fault. Despite an incredible stockpile of talent, DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, DeMarcus Lodge, and Knox, the Ole Miss offense ran a very predictable scheme and didn't run creative route concepts. The quarterback was nothing to write home about either. These circumstances led to Knox being one of the more severely underutilized specimens in college football. Jeffrey, I'll tee you up first. This is kind of topic du jour around Ole Miss with multiple analysts doing this. 100% factual, or is anyone kind of jumping on the boat to jump on the boat?
I don't know if you can say 100% factual, because, I mean, there will be an alternative point of view. The alternative point of view is that Ole Miss ran a simple scheme so that they could go quickly and get their playmakers into desirable matchups. I mean, so I don't know if you can say that with 100% certainty. I do think it was a very stupid scheme. I don't think it was a effective scheme. And I think now that Longo's gone, like, there was a certain segment of the Ole Miss fan base. Of course, there's a certain segment of the fan base. Anything I say, they're just going to sit there and immediately take offense to it and act like I'm some hot take artist and that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But, I mean, that's what I've been screaming about for how many years now on the offense?
Well, multiple years, for sure.
You know, I mean, I didn't just make this stuff up. Like,
it's the one criticism of Matt Luke that I find to be somewhat valid, if not completely valid. It is, and it's very complicated, and it requires nuance, and it does. People can hate those words all they want, but big boy decisions are typically not black and white. But his decision, once he got the permanent job, his decision to retain Phil Longo is questionable.
And, I mean, and Wes. I mean, both of them. And
yeah, but I mean, we're talking specifically. But you're right. Yes, both coordinators. His for whatever reason, his decision, and I understand the reason. I get it. I completely understand the reasoning. Doesn't make it right, but I get it. I understand. We preached this message all that season during an interim year. Here's the problem. Nobody's willing to say we did it because, frankly, it was the only thing we could say. And in reality, none of us thought we'd still be here. And then, boom, we get the job. And now if I fire coordinators, do I look like a hypocrite to the kids that I coached all season? And I get it. I totally understand that. Reality is he would have been much better off long term if he had just said, you know what, these aren't my guys. They did a great job keeping the ship afloat, and we'll always be thankful for their contributions. But I'm hiring my guys. Now that this is my job, I'm hiring my guys. That would have, from a long term standpoint, it would have been better from that than kind of where he is today, where people are like, yeah, I like Rodriguez and I like McIntyre, but it's a year late. We threw a year away. That's what people say, and there's almost an inability or an unwillingness among some people to sort of let that go. And you hear that, and so much of that is being just cemented in place by the criticism that the Ole Miss offense and Phil Longo are receiving in the build up to the draft.
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth on, because I don't want to overreact and make too much out of one decision, but I really do find myself wondering if that decision is reflective of the general, like, for instance, I don't want to sit there and go, because he made this decision, I think this is why it's doomed to fail. But I also do find myself at times being like, well, those are the types of decisions that you have to make. And if you look at, you know, as Neal called it, a big boy decision, the guys that make it long-term are guys that can make big boy decisions. And I do completely understand. I get it. Like, you felt like you made a promise. You want to be a man of your word. I completely understand all that. But, you know, like we started off the show talking about podcasts, like context matters to me. And the job that he had after 12 games as being an interim was a different job than he was, you know, honestly dreaming of getting pie in the sky.
Yeah.
And, you know, at a certain point, you know, you can also break it down this way if you want to be kind of less cynical and you want to say, well, you know, that's cutthroat and that's not the way he wants to do it. Well, if you want to be less cynical about it, okay, Neal touched on something there. It's incredibly short-term thinking. and it's not big picture. And the most successful coaches in general are big picture guys.
It's one of those stories that I think we'll know more about it 20 years from now. I mean, I really do. I think 20 years from now, when it's history, one way, however it works out, I think we'll get, I'm not saying that anyone's dishonest, but in the moment, everyone is so afraid to basically tell the whole truth, because the whole truth would not be what fans necessarily want to hear. They think they want to hear it until they hear it, and then they don't want to hear it. I think 20 years from now, in my opinion, the truth is, he never thought he was getting the job. And then
I think he was getting the job until what, Friday after the Egg Bowl?
I think that's the first inclination that he had, that, you know what, I've got a chance at this thing. And I don't think he knew he had it until the Saturday. And so he didn't have that. He had not had that month and a half like this last year. They had lots of time to figure out, hey, what do we want to do? What direction do we want to go? They knew they were firing Longo and McGriff months ahead of time. People lied about it on the staff and such, but they knew. So he had time to kind of figure it out. He didn't have a lot of time at that point. I think he was, my opinion, he was preparing for the South Alabama job, or a job of that realm, and he didn't have a lot of time to plan. He didn't have a lot of time to get the job. I mean, to talk to coordinators and such. And so when the moment came, they had to hit the road recruiting, and I think they were worried about stability, and they were worried about what the kids inside the program would think, and all of that stuff, because there was all this concern that there was going to be the mass defections and all of that. And so I think instability, they were worried about that. I just think there was a lot there. There was more to the decision than, I don't think any part of the decision was, hey, I love this offense, I think it's going to be awesome, and I think Phil Longo's a great asset, let's roll. I don't think that's ever what he thought. I think it was much more complicated than that. And the part that, and this isn't defending the decision, because I think it was an incorrect decision, but I do understand that you have to understand as a fan that, okay, let's say he fired Phil Longo on the Monday, gets the job on Monday after the Egg Bowl, got to hit the road recruiting, and they fire Phil Longo and they fire Wesley McGriff, and the message that gets sent to the rest of that coaching staff is, man, you better get your stuff in order. I mean, you're hitting the road recruiting, and every one of those guys are getting calls from their wives going, hey, what are we doing? Christmas is a month away. Where are we going? What are we doing? So you fire those guys, and then you can't get anybody in. You can't get anybody to come jump on what looks like a burning ship. All of a sudden, the decision to fire Phil Longo and Wesley McGriff doesn't look so good, because you're this new coach. You have very little track record. No one really knows who you are that much. No one really knows what's going on with the program in terms of what the penalties are going to be, all that stuff. There's a lot there at that point.
See, this is where I disagree, though. I don't, this is going to, I'm sure, come off, as some kind of snarky thing, but it's not. Like, yes, like this idea that, for instance, I don't view this as the same thing as David Cutcliffe, firing David Cutcliffe, because they clearly fire David Cutcliffe and they don't have a plan, and then they wind up with Orgeron. That's not the same thing. You're going to be able to get two coordinators better than Phil Longo and Wes McGriff. Yeah, I mean, that's the truth. And if Matt, I think this is kind of the same. I view the inability to pull the trigger on that, and what also bothers me about the long-term sustainability of him as a head coach, the not being able to announce that you're firing someone, trying to get them another job, and then you wind up doing this tap dance, and then you say it's for recruiting reasons, and then it's really not. It's just I just really have concerns about him being able to pull the trigger on tough decisions.
Is there a thought here, and I don't mean like sacrificing last season in some ways, but they were still under probation. They couldn't go to a bowl. Was there even a thought, or is this even a fair devil's advocate to say, well, do you do you wait a year? Because, yeah, you can find coordinators, but you'll find better coordinators in a year when the cloud passes, so you almost just delay it knowing what's ahead?
But here's the deal. I think there's a case to be made for that. I don't think that was the case. I'm saying there is a legitimate case to be made that was the reasoning behind it. The problem is the way that every other decision is made, that evidence doesn't support that being the reasoning. Like, you can't be short term, and then all of a sudden
incredibly long term with going, right, hey, this is a 5-year decision, not a 1-year decision.
Right, and you honestly don't know how. Like, there's too many variables. Like, I just refuse to believe. Like, for there to be that type of scheming going on in that type of picture, that would be a completely different program than what I'm familiar with.
And the evidence to back up what you're saying, Jeffrey, and this is going to sound mean, so what, is that it took so long to get rid of Maurice Harris. And it's a fair question to wonder if Hugh Freeze doesn't get the Liberty job.
Yeah, I'm sitting right now.
What are we talking about right now? I mean, Hugh Freeze getting the Liberty job, all jokes aside, bailed Ole Miss out. Yeah. It absolutely bailed Ole Miss out of at least in their eyes, was a very difficult decision, and in my eyes would have been the easiest decision in the world, because here's the part that was unfair to Wesley McGriff. Wesley McGriff deserved to be fired. No question about it. Their defense was awful, and he deserved to be fired. Making Wesley McGriff the lone sacrifice the day after that Egg Bowl was unfair, because Maurice Harris absolutely should have been included in that bloodletting.
Yeah, we're going to continue this in 1 second. Jeffrey's sitting through multiple segments today. The podcast brought to you in part by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Sonoma County, and Chattanooga. Underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. They're getting local underwriting and understands your market. A leader in condo financing in Oxford, and the float down options allows you to lock in the current rate, but if rates go down before you close, you just get the lower rate. 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
Jeffrey Wright and all other guests join us on the Patterson & Earhart hotline. Patterson & Earhart, attorneys at law, specialize in personal injury law, real estate law, but they have a general practice that can handle any of your legal needs. If you think you have a legal issue, if you have a legal issue that you just would like to talk to an attorney about, that initial consultation is free, and when you make the call to Patterson & Earhart, you're going to get John Calvin Patterson or Wes Earhart on the phone within 24 hours. Within the same day, frankly, and that's guaranteed. 662-526-1992 or PElaws.com. Warm weather's on the horizon. With it comes the inevitable debate of sock or no sock with your loafers. So save your feet and your shoes from making their own impression and step into spring with some no-shows from Dead Soxy. What you do is you go to deadsoxy.com, you enter the code Rebel Grove at checkout. You get 30% off all of your orders, including the no-shows, including the sale items. They're the same quality you already love and enjoy with the traditional dress socks, but they come with the no-slip guarantee. So go to deadsoxy.com, check out the no-show collection. Remember to enter the promo code Rebel Grove at checkout for 30% off all orders. Podcast also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust, based in Madison, Mississippi, represents clients in more than 20 states. They provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust sits down with you. They listen to your goals, your dreams. They study your expenses. They put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan that cookie-cutter financial planners don't do. They build basically a plan that is exclusively for you. It's pintrust.com, PINNtrust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fee.
Podcast is brought to you by Scripted Jewelry, scriptedjewelry.com. Go to the website, see what all they have to perfectly personalize gifts for you. See everything from the handwriting jewelry and gifts, the new arrivals, the most popular work, the recent work, and more. Even see what people have purchased. And for Mother's Day, you can get that deadline. You can get it ordered by April 25th. Plenty of time to make Mother's Day special. Again, Scripted Jewelry, scriptedjewelry.com. And when you're checking out, use the coupon code REBELS10, REBELS10, for 10% off with scriptedjewelry.com. We're going to talk a good bit of draft today. Jeffrey, I saw yesterday where a couple...
corner.
What?
Is Mother's Day really around the corner?
I mean, it's like a month.
Oh, okay. So I got eternity.
No, I said the deadline to order is April 26th.
Okay. All right.
And then and this is like hand stuff, so they have to like have a couple weeks to get it to you.
I also like how Pinnacle Financial Services also sounds like not only are they able to make you money, but it also sounds like they also function as a therapy group.
There's a little bit of truth to that.
You know what I mean? Like they'll listen to your hopes and dreams. It's like, oh my God, you're better than a dog because you make me money instead of sucking my money.
Yeah.
Mother's Day is May 12th, Jeffrey. You're good.
Okay, yeah, okay.
You got like 6 weeks.
I've got till May 11th, so I've got I've got a month and a month and 7 days. There we go.
What concert are you going to this weekend?
Death Cab for Cutie.
Gotcha. Okay. Where are they playing?
They are at the Orpheum, and my favorite move.
They're at the Orpheum?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my favorite move though was, I'm buying tickets. Turns out my girlfriend company could have given us their tickets for free. But even better, I see April 7th. April 7th. Something's happened there. Nothing coming to mind. Click. April 7th. And then I go to my Google bar and I type in WRES and then WrestleMania April 7th filled in. And I was like, oh, this is now awkward.
The WrestleMania, I don't know if it was WrestleMania promo or what it was, but there was the wrestling thing in Washington, D.C. where they staged like the arrest underneath the building and all the cars and the
staged.
I'm sorry.
Ronda Rousey.
Yes, I stand corrected.
Lynch and Charlotte Flair, my queen, were all three arrested for disorderly conduct.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. They were released on Tuesday, though.
Yeah, I bet they were.
They made sure they could get where they needed to be next.
They had to be in Baltimore that night.
Oh, God.
The police
call it brilliant television.
The police did not have a great they didn't have great control of the situation. I'll say that putting the two of them in the back seat together and letting them engage in handcuffed, but letting them engage in a battle of legs.
Listen, I'm not here to insult our nation's finest, but would you really want to go one-on-one with the deadliest woman on the planet?
No, that's kind of my point. If you're,
would you want to go one-on-one with an 8-time world champion?
No, of course
not.
In
all seriousness, how's the business going? Like, are the ratings through the roof? Like, what's going on with that?
Through the roof's a stretch.
Okay.
Like, the thing about wrestling is the reason why it is for television, the reason why it is a attractive product is they run the whole production. And you have this segment that you're going to get between 2 and 3 million people each and every time they put something on, like clockwork. And all you've got to do is you got to pay for the rights to broadcast it, because WWE, and then you sell the ads, and then WWE just runs the whole operation. You don't really have to worry about it. Like, that's what makes it an attractive product. I mean, last year I think was a record year for revenue. If you made
because the channel has been a success.
Yes, relatively speaking, their streaming network has been successful. I don't know how successful it is long term, because for instance, I have a lot of questions. I think this over-the-top streaming service, like now, okay, for instance, ESPN Plus. I don't know of anyone that would be more a target for that product than myself. I am an avid sports watcher. I like the content, and it offers a lot for me. I've never even considered buying it. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're getting to this oversaturation of, everyone talks about cutting the cord. Well, yeah, but this is what people always missed in the whole argument about bundling content packages. And yes, you were technically paying $11 a month for ESPN, but the fact that everything was bundled up, that made it overall, you're paying like $140. We're now going to this thing where everyone's so obsessed with cutting the cord, you're going to have like 20 streaming services, and they're all going to be ranging between, $6 before tax and $15 a month. And then all of a sudden, before you even paid your internet bill, like you're at $220. And so, like, I'm not convinced that this is the way of the future that other people are.
I've been pleased with my situation. It would not work for you because I don't focus on Twitter as a supplement for live television as much as you do. Because you're constantly 2 or 3 plays behind.
It's awful. Like,
yeah,
I would.
You're 2 or 3 behind always.
Yes.
But you make a good point because, yeah, I've got the Hulu TV and I get like 40 channels and that's cool, like whatever. But I'm constantly having to open the ESPN app. Well, that comes with it, but then I'm still paying for Netflix. I'm still paying for Amazon Prime. I'm still paying for 10 other things too, including one of the HBO Now or HBO Go's just so I can get the 2 or 3 shows on that channel.
Yeah, and then, and it's only going to get worse because, Disney's going to do their streaming service, and I'm going to have to pay for that, and then I'm going to have to. I'm not convinced that this feels. I don't want to say it feels faddish, but I don't think this is the business model. And then on top of that, and I'm sure that we'll figure out a way. It doesn't seem that up to this point they figured out to monetize it, because I don't think the subscription is going to be like, you start looking at ESPN Plus. It's going to lose over $200 million. And I understand that this is early in the business, and I understand Disney doesn't blink at $200 million. They keep moving, and they understand, okay, well, this is a long-term investment, but they've not figured out how to monetize it yet.
So let's get into some draft stuff. We were going to do that today. Anyway, the first round of the draft, 3 weeks from tonight. Seeing DK Metcalf, obviously, right now projected first off the board for Ole Miss, anywhere from 7 to 15. I saw both ESPN talking heads had him at 12 to the Packers yesterday. Jaguars at 7 per USA Today, 15 to the Redskins by CBS. Obviously, tons of heat from the combine. A.J. Brown not in the first round of these mocks. Greg Little not in the first round of these mocks. Am I crazy for thinking DeMarcus Lodge is the most, or at least the best value of this whole group?
No, I don't think so, because I think he's the best pure receiver. Okay. Now, DK is going to obviously be an animal in the red zone, and if you look at where most receivers, where they're valued is red zone production, but I think Lodge he doesn't have the pure speed that like Stephon Diggs does, but he reminds me kind of a Walmart brand DeAndre Hopkins. Now, he did have a couple of drops, but I think he's the best. I think he's the best pure catcher of those 3 guys. Like, I don't know. When they threw it to Lodge, I always had more confidence in him catching the ball than the other 2. Do y'all think that's fair?
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I mean, he went sort of under the radar his entire career for being a guy who was a top 100 receiver out of Texas. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it was sort of weird. Like, and I don't know if it was personality, just losing on the teams, or what it was.
How many stars? Yeah, that's it.
4. He was a top 100 guy.
Yeah, that's it.
What do you mean?
Yeah, 5 stars.
Oh, it takes 5.
Mm-hmm. Takes 5.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Why is Laquan Treadwell still revered?
You think it's because he had 5 stars?
Yes. And he
picked. Do you really?
Yes. It put him on the map. It was their first big get of that crew.
Okay. So coming off that, because Lodge is a 4-star, he went sort of under the radar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was, it's like Dante. Dante was still underappreciated at Ole Miss.
Yeah, because he was barely in the top 100 there at one point. I mean, remember he was the one that the geniuses didn't put on the Miss Al game.
Yeah, I mean, he was the 3rd receiver. It was Brazel and the kid.
Singleton.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Miss Al game, I think, went with Joe Morrow and Devin Fosselman that year.
Can't say that was a mistake in hindsight.
No. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, DeMarcus Lodge, 6.0 rating, 61 nationally, 7 in the state of Texas, 7 wide receiver overall.
I mean, if you're telling me you get that guy in the 3rd round, I think that's a heck of a value.
AJ early second. How you feeling about that?
From everything I've read, this receiving class isn't that good, right?
It's down. Yeah.
And my deal is, I don't know if you can quite treat receivers like running backs, but if I were building a team, like for instance, the Giants have so many holes, like I would not value receivers in this draft. Like now that doesn't mean you draft Eric Flowers when they did, and you don't reach for linemen, but this defensive draft is by all accounts loaded. Like I would focus on getting those guys because like you can't touch these guys after 5 yards down the field. Like there's a reason why Tom Brady like throws to Julian Edelman. Like at the end of the day, like if you don't, I don't think you need these unbelievable, like if the Giants are able to trade for Rosen and they turned Odell Beckham into Jabril Peppers, if they turned him into Jabril Peppers, an offensive lineman, an extra pick, and Rosen, like I think that's a pretty good return.
So, and not factoring in some of that just from USA Today, I'm looking at the Giants here because I found their draft interesting, and it's kind of straightforward. They have them taking Montez Sweat at 6, the edge rusher from Mississippi State.
I like that.
They have them taking Jonah Williams at 17.
Yeah, I got no problem with that. I like how Montez Sweat's faster than any receiver State's had in a decade.
And then here's the interesting one, and I think you're going to be fine with this. At 37, they have the Giants taking Jeffrey Simmons.
Yep, give me that all day.
You're fine with the reclamation project?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, and I told you, like, with Peppers getting questioned about some, perhaps violence issues off the field, that doesn't exactly deter me from my strong safety.
There are certain positions where that is seen as a lack of detriment.
Like a mean streak in my defense.
Okay.
Yeah, and in today's
That's a very Jeff Fisher way to look at it, but yes.
Character concerns don't concern me.
Okay.
Professional sports, I don't know. I mean, come on. The majority of these guys aren't Boy Scouts. I'm not defending anybody. I'm just keeping it real.
Morgan Cox, the deep snapper from Baltimore, when he first got there, Tyrod Taylor befriended him. And one of his words of advice to him was, whatever you do, don't leave your wallet, don't leave your phone, don't leave your wife, don't leave anything out where people can take it in this locker room because they will steal it. That was his whole, he's like, do not trust, he goes, they're here to play football. And if they weren't.
That was Tyrod's advice.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. This one has Greg Little, 38 to the Jags. Where are we sitting on this? Because it seems like he's just slowly falling as it's moving forward.
I think there's questions of what his position is because it seems
he doesn't feel left tackle right now.
Doesn't feel like a left tackle. He hasn't.
Is he big enough to be a left tackle? I watched him. He was walking around at practice the other day, and look, I mean this relative to other NFL tackles. I'm not talking about compared to the three of us. He looks like Adonis compared to us.
Let's even keep it local. Like he doesn't. You put him and Laramie next to each other, and there is a eye-popping difference.
There is. I just try to avoid that because he constantly gets compared to Laramie, and I understand why, but it's not overly fair either.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go back a little, like a Brad Sowell. He's not as big as Brad is. No. I just kind of question if he's now. Look, I think he's athletic, and so I wonder if the reason that to your point, Chase, I wonder if the reason that his draft stock, at least in the eyes of some of these mocks, is falling a little bit is because teams wonder, is he going to have to play guard?
I think there's that, and I think the other aspect of it is Ole Miss didn't really have a true pass protection scheme. Almost all their passes were either play action or run pass options in which they fired off like they were running plays every single time. And I think in the NFL there's a there's a hesitation to take a tackle that hasn't sat in a 2-point stance and had to drop and then be in pass protect. I mean,
is it guard or right tackle? What's next if the left is not working?
I guess it's right tackle because, I mean, you know, you look at guards in the NFL, most of them are like wide freaking boulders, like that you just can't move.
And now Greg's been a pretty good run blocker.
Yeah,
I think he's a right tackle first if he can't play left tackle. He's a smart guy. He's very coachable. It's what everyone says. I mean, look, I think he's got a future to play in the NFL. I mean, there are guys in the NFL that play that are not as good as he is. I just think he's falling into a little bit of that tweener category that is affecting his draft stock.
I think he's also falling because, in general, this offensive line draft is not viewed as the strength of the draft. And so oftentimes when you see these mock drafts, I think guys that write mock drafts, this is not a criticism. This is the way that I think they should do it. I think what they do is they have grades for all of these guys, and they kind of mock it based on who the best available guy is. And despite what every franchise says that we took the best available player, I mean, it's just simply not true. They take what they think they need at that point.
You draft to your need in the first round, unless you have the first. Even if you have the first pick in the draft, you typically draft to need.
Yes, unless you got a quarterback you believe in. And it's why, like, if the Cardinals believe in Kyler Murray, like, I got no problem with them. Like, at the end of the day, like, if you don't think Rosen's the guy and you think Kyler is, then take Kyler Murray. Like, if there's a quarterback, it's the whole thing. Like, I don't agree with the idea of trying to, if you have a quarterback you believe in, like, maybe we could get him a little bit later and whatnot, trade down. It's like, no, just if it's quarterback, like, it's the most important position, take him. Like, just take him. That's kind of my thought process. It's like, at the end of the day, we made all the jokes about the Bears trading up to get, one position to get Mitch Trubisky, but, if that's the guy that's going to be their quarterback for 10 to 15 years, then who cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I'm with you completely. If the Cardinals think that Kyler Murray's the guy, this is your one shot to get Kyler Murray. You happen to pick first. I mean, ideally, you trade down a couple of spots and you get another asset. But if you can't do that, you're sitting there at 1 and you're on the clock and he's your guy. Take him. I mean, look, you're going to be held accountable for what happened. I mean, there's no business that's more scoreboard oriented than the NFL. I mean, you're either winning or you're losing, and if you lose, you're going to get fired. So if you're going to lose, lose with the guy you believe in.
We had on Eric's show yesterday, we had Bill Bender, who writes for Sporting News. Good dude from Ohio, just a real good guy. And we were discussing, the collapse of the AAF, RIP. It was a heck of a 52 days. But we were also discussing, like, second football leagues. Could you imagine? So Herschel Walker picks the USFL. Could you imagine if Kyler Murray spurned the NFL this year to go play in the XFL for next year? Because that's essentially what Herschel Walker did.
Well, help me here. What was the money differences at that point? Because obviously the XFL versus NFL is a dramatic difference.
I think at the time, right, Neal, you can correct me if I'm wrong. At the time, they gave him the largest upfront signing bonus that we'd ever seen.
Yeah, I don't think. I think because it's been so long, we forget. I don't think people completely remember how much momentum from a PR standpoint the USFL had at one point. They had Herschel Walker and Jim
Kelly, Rich White.
Yeah, they had good players, man. I mean, that was not a bad product. It just, I mean, I'd have to go back and really read about it. I'm sure there's a podcast or series of podcasts about it that I would thoroughly.
There's that 30 for 30 that's real good.
Yeah, I'd actually would like to go back and look at that. That's because you make a great comparison there, Jeffrey. That's exactly what it would be like. It was Herschel Walker was, I mean,
at the time, he's the greatest college player, certainly the greatest college running back production-wise that most had ever seen. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, he and Bo Jackson came out at roughly the same time, and to say that they were household names is an understatement. At a time when, football was big, but it wasn't king the way it is today. Those guys were absolutely household names, and for Herschel Walker to spurn the NFL and go to the USFL was a huge story, and he wasn't like what we just chronicled. He was not alone. There was a bunch of those guys, and yet it just didn't work. And so I think that's kind of my thing is if the USFL with the funding that it had at one point, with the players that it was able to get at one point, if the USFL can't work, maybe nothing can.
That's where I really I think Vince McMahon's being smart and trying to not be first to market. But man, I just really question, I do think a developmental league is 100% necessary, but I just really question if the NFL is not involved, I just don't know if an independent sports league can work.
They have a developmental league. It's called the SEC.
Yeah. Right. And the Big Ten and college football, and more importantly, they don't pay for it. The D League was folding, and then the NBA decided we need this. This is another opportunity. They slapped Gatorade on it, and why does minor league baseball work? Well, it works because the Major League Baseball is paying the salaries, and
right,
the very small salaries.
And it's a different deal. In minor league baseball, if you've ever really been to much of it, you understand it's just kind of a hometown marketing sort of a thing, and you're not dependent really on big crowds, and it's a totally different sort of deal. It can't even be included in the conversation, and the NBA uses the G League in a developmental way, but they also have another developmental league that they don't pay for called college basketball. And so with football, it's a lot more players. It's for it to work, the NFL has to really invest in it. And there's no motivation for the NFL to invest in it because the NFL has, as we just said, everybody makes a joke of it. It's true. They have developmental leagues. It's the SEC, it's the Big 12, it's the Big 10, it's the Pac-12, it's the ACC. They have developmental leagues that all they have to pay is they'll send a scout to Oxford or Tuscaloosa or whatever a few times, and they have to pay a couple of hotel bills or whatnot, but they don't have to pay anything to have that developmental league. It's minimal expenses, and they get everything they need, and the players come out pretty much ready to go.
Not just ready to go, but also fully marketed, because of the success of college football from a PR standpoint. So it's everything.
It's the second biggest sport from a television watching. It's the second biggest sport in the country, and the guys have to stay there 3 years.
Yeah, Jeff, we got you a couple more minutes. I want to switch over. What's going to happen in the Final Four? How you feeling about this weekend basketball-wise?
I'll stick with it. We said it. Neal and I talked about it on a podcast. If you look at the profile of a national champion, they have to be essentially a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, and I don't think this is a scorching hot take. Virginia doesn't pass the eye test, but they are metrically the best team. And the only team metrically that can stay with them is Michigan State. And I just kind of think it's broken perfectly for Virginia. And every time they play, I feel like you leave at the end of the game going, are they good? But then you realize they lost 2 games during the regular season. They lost to Florida State in the tournament. It's a pretty darn good team.
I watched them practice. You're right. They don't blow you away on the eye test, but they kind of do everything well. They don't really have a glaring weakness other than they don't have a lot of depth, but the way that they play, depth doesn't really matter. I mean, Auburn, I'd love to see Auburn win for a myriad of reasons. It would be fun. It would be kind of amusing to see Bruce Pearl win a title on the heels of all this FBI stuff. I would get a kick out of it. But I don't think Auburn can. It just feels like that's kind of, to me, it kind of feels like that's over. They had a hell of a run. I mean, everybody will remember those kids forever. But, and then on the other side, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to count against Tom Izzo when he gets this far.
The other flip side of it is, though, like, one thing about Auburn, what is their batting average when they put themselves in position? Like, I feel like for like all the Auburn's jokes about being little brother and whatnot, like, I feel like when they get in position, they have a very high batting average of converting.
They do well. Yeah, they do well on converting when they get this far. And they're I mean, you know, you're doing the football, basketball thing, which, of course, doesn't correlate, except here's the flip side on Auburn is that these kids absolutely believe that they could beat anybody right now. They're playing with incredible confidence. I mean, they survived that New Mexico State scare, and then after that, they kind of kicked the hell out of everybody they played.
Yeah,
they haven't lost. They haven't lost since February.
I do think the week off mitigates that a little bit. They didn't have to play the next day. You know what I mean? You couldn't ride it. Now, I mean, now you've got this injury, and then you take a week off, and you come back, and I mean, all it takes is 10 minutes of poor shooting, and they're done because they have no other avenue to win a basketball game.
And Virginia's really good about taking the three away.
Yeah,
and I feel like Virginia, like, for instance, Ole Miss has a great game plan against Auburn because essentially what they say is we'll go play offense with 4 guys to make sure we get someone back every single time so that they don't get these transition threes. Virginia's not going to have any problem not exactly forcing the issue on offense.
Yeah, Jeffrey, you got about a minute left. Entertain me for a second. Whose side you take on the Kuchar-Sergio thing last weekend?
I hope they're both just terrible. Like, I kept thinking about the Family Guy cutaway when Maggie and Jake Gyllenhaal were arguing about who's worse. Like, Sergio and Kuchar, like, it's the same thing. Like,
no one's had a Q rating fall like Matt Kuchar, maybe in professional sports.
Quickly. I think that's kind of what happens when your profile doesn't fit reality, and then finally there was the opportunity to kind of show your true colors, and then after that, I was like, everyone was coming out of the woodworks.
Would you have given the next hole?
Absolutely not. Like, that's the kind of thing I just wish Kuchar would do. Like, lean into it. Like,
say no, you're screw up. That's it.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yes.
But he tried to play nice guy.
Yes. Because that's like his brand and what. Like, that's the problem. Golf is like 15 years behind in virtually everything. So this is kind of what they get.
Yeah. Appreciate it, bud.
All right.
All right. Neal, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, here we go. We'll come back in a minute. I'll even kind of fill you in on what the crap we're talking about in a second before we do that. Tell you about Blow Dry Bar Oxford, 662-638-3310, 1801 Jackson Avenue, 10 to 6, Tuesday to Friday, 10 to 3 Saturday. If you want to come in for Grove Bowl at the Lady in Your Life, head on over to Blow Dry Bar before the Grove Bowl and baseball on Saturday. If you're one of the 4%ers listening, take care of yourself. Also, you get a gift card. You can save money with mentioning rebelgrove.com, and also men's haircuts as well. Take advantage of those. You get a great haircut at a low price with Blow Dry Bar Oxford, one of the best new business in Oxford for 2018, voted on by the people. Again, 662-638-3310.
The podcast also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles. Go in, test drive one. Tell Gene and Sandy you heard about Grenada Nissan on the podcast. You'll get Rebel savings on top of the already great deals at Grenada Nissan. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry is an Oxford-based RE/MAX Legacy Realty agent. He is very involved with Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 0.7 of a mile from the Oxford downtown square. Savannah Square will initially consist of 32 standalone detached structures, individual homes, ranging in size from about 1,100 square feet to about 2,400 square feet. If you're coming up this weekend, or one of these next 3 of these next 4 weekends for baseball, for Grove Bowl, for Double Decker, whatever the case may be, or a combination thereof, go check out the model home. It's at 215 Williams Street. These homes have wonderful layouts, impeccable finishes. You can inspect them. Give Harry a call. He'll give you a tour. He'll take you through. He'll show you everything. Go to the website, savannahsquareoxford.com, and then give Harry a call or text 662-801-5621. Podcast also brought to you by the Westin Jackson. If you live in or around Jackson, stop into the Westin Jackson, visit Soul Spa, visit Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro. It's a fantastic place. If you're visiting Jackson, in Jackson for work, passing through Jackson, need a place to stay, that's a absolutely perfect place. It's the best place in the Jackson area, beyond a shadow of a doubt. The Westin Jackson, you can use your Marriott Rewards points, or you can accrue Marriott Rewards points there at the Westin Jackson. And we're brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated. If you've been thinking about that golf trip, thinking about an anniversary trip, start to think about some of the holiday trips, believe it or not, it'll be Christmas and all that before you know it. Get in touch with John. He's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values and unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. So if you're thinking about going with the boys to Pebble Beach for the U.S. Open, or you think about taking her to Napa for the vacation of her dreams, call John, give him some parameters, give him a budget. He'll give you options that you would not find on your own. And no, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387, or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first book trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast.
Podcast is brought to you by G&M Pharmacy. They're on South Lamar in Oxford. You know they deliver local in the Oxford area to your home or workplace. You know that you can transfer your medications easily. You just give them a call, and they'll take care of the rest. 662-236-2222. A lot of you guys have done that. Really, really appreciate it. Also, they offer the CBD oil we've been telling you about. It is offered in multiple different options, including sublingual oil, soft gel capsules, topical salves. It's an all-natural product that helps maintain overall health and helps regulate many conditions such as depression, anxiety, pain, insomnia, and more. You can find out more. It's completely FDA approved. It is available and legal in all 50 states. So give G&M the call. Again, 662-236-2222 to find out more. So it's where golf misses the boat, Neil, because you get into all these little semantics, and it's where people who aren't really interested go, this is complete turnoff for the sport. They got the match play this past weekend in Austin, and it's a really fun event because it coincides with the NCAA tournament. It's top 64 players in the world in a bracket, just like March Madness, and you play through to the finals. Cool? All right?
Okay, yep.
So, all right, Matt Kuchar and Sergio Garcia are playing in a, I guess, quarterfinal match, maybe, if that makes sense, somewhere in there. And Kuchar's the one, you probably saw some of this, I heard Jeffrey Wright talk about it, that he picked up the Mexican caddy for a tournament in Mexico a few weeks ago, and he won the tournament and then paid him an incredibly small amount of money. And his justification was, well, that's a lot more than he would have made that day if it wasn't for me.
Oh, I did hear about this.
And he's a guy that his entire career had sort of been, I mean, you know, Wally Beaver, all shucks, great guy, great man, great ping pong player, just real fun-loving, like really no negative publicity at all. And suddenly it comes out once this happens that basically he's kind of a jerk. And he's put on a really good persona over the years, but that what happened in Mexico, because he wouldn't stop talking. He kept trying to justify himself as the good guy instead of just paying the dude what he, you know, because nobody said, look, normal caddies get 10% of winnings. So that'd have been about $130,000 to this dude. Nobody said do that because that guy's not having to travel on his own. He doesn't have the week-to-week grind. He doesn't know Kuchar's game, so he probably didn't help in a lot of ways that his typical caddy would help. But he paid him like $3,000. Kuchar made $1.3 million and paid the caddy $3,000 to start with.
And it's understood that you pay a certain percentage when you win a tournament.
Well, or at least more. Again, it's not a typical caddy, but definitely more than $3,000 or $5,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It becomes this huge big PR thing, whatever. So he's facing Sergio Garcia, who's a complete hothead. Has kind of gone up and down from a likability standpoint over the last 20 years. And Sergio misses a putt, and the hole should have been tied. But before Kuchar could say the next putt was good, and it was like a foot. I mean, it was right by the hole. It was easily going to be given to him. Sergio just kind of pissed off, quick raked the putt, and just kind of hit it, and it didn't go in. Okay?
Okay.
he picks it up thinking they just half the hole and no big deal. They get to the next tee box, and Kuchar goes, look, I was going to give you that shot, but you hit it before I was able to, so we need to call a rules official in because I don't want anything bad to happen here. I'm not really sure what to do. So the rule official comes in and goes, well, Matt, if you didn't give him the putt, he missed the putt, thus you win the hole. And Matt goes, well, but I want to give him the putt now. And the rules official's like, well, you can't do that because he missed the putt, whatever, blah, 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 you know. And Sergio goes, well, I mean, if you're really wanting to make it even, why don't you just give me this hole? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that way we're both tied 1-1. We just move on to the next hole. And Matt's like, well, I mean, I'm just trying to do the right thing here and doing all this stuff. When it's match play, all he had to do was keep his mouth shut. And if somebody asked, go, oh, yeah, I gave it to him. No big deal. You know what I mean? Because you're not, you know, it's one thing if you're harming the field, but it's just heads up. I mean, all you could say was, hey, they're here. Yeah, I gave some acknowledgement. He knew it was good. We're fine. Move on to the next hole. But he didn't do that. He's got to get the benefit, but then also try to be the nice guy, be the guy that always comes out on the top, and he just can't learn to shut up. So, yeah, it turns off non-golf people, I'm sure, because it's incredibly, it's all up in the minutia, and it's stupid.
It is confusing, honestly. Those of us who don't follow golf, when I heard the story, I thought he's a jerk.
Yeah. And now, look, I wouldn't have given him the other guy the next hole, too. I mean, Sergio was at fault. He could have waited on Kuchar to say the putt was good.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's two idiots arguing back and forth is what it is. But don't always try to come out being the noble one when you're not being noble, is the point.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Garcia's always been, and I don't, look, I'm never going to be the guy that pretends to be a golf expert. It's just not going to happen. I don't know. I don't watch it enough. I watch it very, very little. But he's always seemed like an ass to me.
Well, he's always been one. I mean, he sort of had a really popularity increase. You know, he won the Masters a few years ago, finally won a major, and he'd sort of calmed down. But then here in the last year or so, he got suspended by the European Tour, or at least, no, he didn't get suspended. He got just kicked out of a tournament for being mad and just repeatedly hitting his putter into the green and damaging the greens during a tournament on the European Tour. He does a lot of stuff. It's just whatever. But yeah, that was the latest, and it was kind of dumb and what's usually a pretty fun event because match play's fun. Heads up, one-on-one's fun. It's easy to understand. There's a bracket. Everybody loves brackets. It's a good little event to get a change of pace on the PGA Tour. But anyway. All right. So up at the site at rebelgrove.com, Russell has a story on a recruit that I cannot find his name right now. I'm trying to get to it. Do you have the front page open, Neil?
It's Jacobs.
Isaiah Jacobs.
Yeah.
Isaiah Jacobs looks to make a name for himself as his recruitment evolves. So that's there. And then also I published a story on Thomas Dillard this morning. Really appreciate his parents, Tom and Chris, allowing me to sit down with them, kind of tell his story. Obviously the junior outfielder for Ole Miss. He had a devastating injury during a 7-on-7 no-contact football practice going into his sophomore year. The spot where his pancreas and his small intestine meet ruptured. It separated. And he required emergency surgery. It led to him stopping playing football past that point. And
in a non-contact?
Well, I mean, it was 7-on-7. It was kind of like drills. But what happened was they had no pads on. But he went up for an interception, and when he did, one of his own teammates accidentally kind of ran into him, and it was just sort of the perfect storm. The guy's knee went into Thomas's side and separated his pancreas and his small intestine.
Oh my God.
So he gets done and he goes and lays on the sidelines, and everybody's like, "Hey, this is a tough kid. Like this isn't good. There's something up." They take him to Greenwood, and he ends up having surgery. He was there 10 days, I think. He also had a cracked pancreas, was the way it was described to me.
Oh my
and
God.
Then he goes home, and everybody thinks that he's on the mend potentially, but he ends up in Lebanon because the wound ruptures, opens up, and he ends up spending, I think, 14 days in Lebanon. He lost 37 pounds during the ordeal, and they ended up having to take his gallbladder, which was the last part before he really started recovering. But it was it's a scary deal because they said that when it ruptured, whatever was in his stomach would have just spilled out into his cavity and been potentially, septic or anything else. But he'd only had a Powerade that morning. They said that had he had actual breakfast, it potentially could have been fatal or much more severe than it was. And kind of their blessing or their luck or however you want to interpret it also continued because they thought about just sending him home and letting him rest. And I think Tom, his dad, gave me a quote that's in the story that said, had they done that, he was bleeding internally and he likely would have never woken up once he took a nap.
Oh, my God.
So that story at rebelgrove.com this morning, we detailed that a good bit. And I think journalists a lot of times sort of have this feeling that everyone just has to talk to them and they can never be told no. And that's not the case. So I really appreciate it. It was a tough day for his parents to go back to and to recount and talk about. Chris teared up multiple times during the interview. So really appreciate them just going there because there was no requirement that they allow that to happen. So I do appreciate it.
You don't send your son off to a football practice essentially thinking that something could happen at that practice that could be fatal.
No, I mean, just a summer, no contact, just one of those 7-on-7 passing drill things that you see all the time.
You know what's funny, though? I watch those things like, you see them all the time. And this is not about Thomas. This is not about football. It's not about that. But people always refer to those as no contact. Man, there's a lot of contact in those deals.
Yeah, they are no pads is what they are.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. I will watch that and go, because we'll go to the first, football practices of the year. They have to do 2 with no pads and then 2 with just shoulder pads. And then they do, they can go into full pads. And the ones in no pads, I mean, the only people that aren't doing normal stuff are linemen. The dudes on the outside, they're still, those pass drills, it's like you probably ought to put pads on them.
Yeah, I told a lot of the story through his mom because, I mean, as a parent, I can't imagine what she was going through. They had kind of the circumstances around it. Again, read the story. I'm just kind of recounting some details here. But they've been playing a summer baseball tournament in Gulf Shores, and he was going to just stay on the beach for a week or so. And Tim Doolin, at the time, his summer league coach that runs the Doolin Dodgers, told him, said, hey, Ole Miss wants you on Monday to come by. They want you to take a recruiting visit. I kind of need you back in town for that. So his dad drives him back on Sunday to Greenwood. He's at Pillow Academy at the time. And since he's already in town, he goes to practice that morning, a practice he wasn't even supposed to go to. And that's when it happens. So his mom, still in Gulf Shores, gets a phone call 8 hours away that just goes, hey, we're headed in for surgery and the prognosis isn't good. Get here as fast as you can. And that's all the information she had at the start.
Oh, God.
So she's got an 8-hour drive back from the beach, trying to get information, trying to get phone calls, and having service go out and all these things before she finally gets to her son, probably 4 hours after his surgery at that point.
Oh,
I can't imagine. I mean, just
nope.
And the doctors gave him a clean bill of health, told him he could play whatever he wanted, but the family said, no, we're going to stick with baseball and we're going to do one sport moving forward. So he actually bowled in high school just to fill his time, and he tells me he can still get over 200 from time to time on the bowling lane.
Not surprised.
No. I mean, as you read it, he's been a freak athlete since he was a kid. He actually, even as a 7-year-old, qualified for one of the U.S. Kids World Championships in golf.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, we're not all created equal. Thomas is on the other side of the spectrum than yours truly.
When people who are really good athletes are good in other sports and everybody acts surprised at it, I'm always blown away. I'm like, why is this remotely surprising? You'll see the TV people go, in addition, he's a fantastic tennis player. And you're like, yeah, well, no shit. Of course he is. I mean,
he has elite hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. Well, why would he not be? It would only be news to me if you told me, man, you ought to see Thomas Dillard on a bowling alley. He looks so uncoordinated.
He's worse than you at golf. He cannot hit the golf ball.
Yeah, if you told me that, I'd be like, really? That's fascinating. Because
yeah,
baseball players good at golf Nope.
It was one of the funnier stories that I heard while I was sitting with them, and it's in the story, is that they get to Williamsburg, Virginia for this U.S. Kids World Championships. And for people that don't understand what this is like, I mean, it's Little League Dad times 1,000 for most of these kids. There's a Netflix documentary called The Short Game that details these 7 to 12-year-old kids that golf is their life. I mean, their parents are putting them through pressure cookers. And Thomas, just a kid from Greenwood, ends up in this tournament because he can hit the ball as a 7-year-old a mile. And his dad said they played with a kid from Colombia, like the country. And the kid had a trainer and a nutritionist on the course with him at 7 years old. And he goes, I'm just laughing the whole time because he's like, we're just teeing it up and trying to see how far we can hit it. He's like, we can't chip or putt, but we can knock the crap out of it. And here we are. So, because he said, Thomas was stronger than all the other kids. So he's like driving greens and stuff. But then these other kids are just getting up and downs and making 40-foot putts and all this stuff.
We'll do it another day. We don't have time today, but one of these days, and I'll do the most of the pissing of people off. The Thomas Dillard was born a great athlete. Don't get me wrong. He's put a lot of work in to get to where he is today. I get it. But if Thomas Dillard had been born not a great athlete, just an average, adequate athlete, and had put all the exact same work in, he wouldn't be the player he is today. He wouldn't be where he is. So much of athleticism is literally that. Yes, you have to work hard, but all the hard work in the world isn't going to make you Kevin Durant.
I mean, look, you've got to have the physical stature and all those things, but to me, so much of it is just hand-eye coordination.
Absolutely.
To me, that's the overwhelming thing with any sport is just hand-eye coordination.
And you can improve that by working at it, but you can't make it like quick twitch stuff. You can't make that ingrained in someone. You just can't. It's why we will do it another time. It's why I'm coaching a group of 11 kids, 11 and 12-year-olds, about half and half, mostly 12. It's so much fun, Chase. I don't know how good we are. I don't think we're very good at all, in fact. But they're fun kids, and they enjoy practice, and we do like simulated games and practice and stuff to kind of keep – because baseball practice can be super boring. 10 kids stand out there while one kid hits. That's boring. So we try to do as little of that as we can. It's been so much fun, and none of these kids are playing travel ball and stuff, and we've got 4 or 5 kids who can actually throw strikes, and it's fun to see them like get better and stuff. And I don't know, sports like what you described in Williamsburg, that's everywhere, especially a lot of that in baseball. And
look, if you haven't seen it, you would be baffled, but you should really take the 80 minutes and watch that documentary. I can't even describe it in words.
Yeah, I think some of what my generation is doing with kids in sports is I think it's fairly criminal. But it's I don't know. I need to stop. If Laura were sitting here, she'd say stop. We had a travel baseball experience a year ago that was very eye-opening to me.
How much do you know going in? I mean, I'm moving on in a second. I'm just curious why I'm looking for something.
I was skeptical. He wanted to play. And here's the truth about Carson. Okay, my kid. Carson's a really good kid. You've met Carson. Carson's a neat kid. I mean, he has every dad says this, but this kid has a really bright future. Now, that future probably, almost certainly, does not include.
Is it something other than sports like the NCAA commercial says?
Yes, his future is almost certainly not in college athletics, and I mean the odds of him playing a professional sport are probably less than 0.000001. But if you told me that he was going to be okay at a sport, my guess is on that sport would be baseball because he's tall, he's left-handed, he actually can throw strikes. He doesn't throw particularly hard, but again, he's 12. But decisions are made at that age. We decide at 10 who's a good baseball player. It's silly. It's so silly. And everyone's playing on these travel teams. I walked on our way to practice yesterday. I looked at a travel team, and I'm trying to keep my mouth shut because it's silly. It's silly. Instead of those boys playing in a park commission and having fun, they're out there and spending a bunch of money on uniforms and so we did it. He wanted to play. He tried out for a team and didn't make it. Got that team recommended to him. He did it, and within a month they were getting ringers for tournaments because it's very, very important to win that New Albany Invitational with 10-year-olds. It's very important. I think we all remember who won that tournament in 2012 and the impact that it had on that program.
Yeah, I think travel baseball has a place. You just have to make it healthy.
Yeah, well, that's my point. Yeah, and if it is at that age, it needs to be fun. The kids need to be able to play. You don't bring ringers in. If kids go to practice, they should play in the games because that's how you develop. It's how you get better, and it's supposed to be fun that age. I tell, man, these some of these kids that are being this stuff forced down their throat, they're going to hate their dads. They're going to hate them. I mean, they really are. They're going to grow up with so many issues because they're having their childhood taken away. I mean, I love it. I love when I come home and I'll say, "Where's Carson?" and one of the girls or Laura says, "Oh, he's out in the hood playing. They're playing soccer or they're playing football or they're playing wiffle ball or whatever it is that they play." Nothing makes me happier than to hear that my little boy is out being a little boy, because you don't get to be a little boy forever. You get to be 12 one time. That's it. It's over. Once you become 13, it's how it works. The way I understand it, you don't ever get to go back and be 12 again. Just like once you're 12, you never get to be 11 again. You get to be a kid one time. And there's a lot of kids having their large portions of their childhood taken away from them.
I'd like to be 12 again.
Yeah, I'd love to be 12 again. And that whole thing of, well, it's going to be worth it when they get a college scholarship. Yeah, you're not developing the skill set to get the college scholarship. Understand that. Those kids that when you watch Ole Miss in Florida this weekend, those kids are really good. Look at the kids that are playing in that game, and almost every one of them's the best player in the history of a program and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of that, the overwhelming majority of that is, frankly, genetics.
You get the opportunity, and then you take the most advantage of it.
Yes, I'm not belittling Gray Kessinger. I know he's worked really hard, but for anyone to go, well, Gray got all. This isn't a criticism of Gray in any form, but it certainly helped Gray that his grandfather and his father were professional athletes. He had to go work. I mean, if he just never practiced or never did anything, well, of course he's not going to be good enough to play. He had to put the work in, and he absolutely did. But you understand my point. My point is not about him. It's really about the travel ball kid that you can see out there. Hey, look, he's not going to be a professional athlete. Why are you putting him through this? Silly.
Podcast brought to you in part by Master Cuts. By now, you know that all Master Cuts provides premium lawn care throughout northern Mississippi. Did you know they offer a lot more? They build your custom playgrounds, retaining walls, pool decks, and outdoor living spaces. They even handle lights and those different things for you depending on the season and what's ahead and what your vision is for your backyard. Forestry mulching starting at just $100 an hour, and the path to your dream backyard may be easier than you think. You can visit them online at gomastercuts.com for a free quote. You also get that same free quote by giving them a call at 662-607-7773. Again, that's gomastercuts.com.
The podcast also brought to you by Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB also offers a commercial checking account. It's now paying 1% interest as long as you keep $10,000 in the account. Comes with fully interactive online banking. They'll set up any local business to deposit checks from their office, not have to worry about coming to the bank daily to deposit those checks. To learn more, go to OUB, go to liveoxford.bankoxford.com, or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. Also, want to remind you about the Blue Delta Jeans 5-year anniversary party. They've been on the square for 5 years, and they're going to celebrate it on Sunday, April the 28th, and you're invited. It's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Music, complimentary Bloody Marys, complimentary Big Bad Breakfast, and you can check out their blue jeans. Their new spring-summer line of denim and Holland and Cherry will be on display. You can check those out. You can get fitted if you'd like. You can get jeans that we wear, that the Grammy Award winners have worn, that wear. Jason Isbell wears them, World Series champs, Super Bowl champs, NASCAR drivers, Oscar Award winners, and more. It's a private event, so you need to RSVP, and you do that. You can go to Instagram or Twitter, send them a direct message. Their DMs are open. Send them a direct message and let them know you're coming. Give them your name, your phone number, how many people, all that stuff. You can, and if you don't want to use social media, you can send them an email, info, I-N-F-O, at bluedeltajeans.com to RSVP. Simple as that. Again, April the 28th on the square, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Blue Delta Jeans 5-year anniversary.
Your Thursday night SEC game tonight is Auburn and Arkansas, I believe. Arkansas having a tough week. They lose 2 out of 3 to Ole Miss over the weekend. Did you see what Little Rock did to them Tuesday night?
Did not.
The Little Rock Trojans beat Arkansas 17-7 in Fayetteville Tuesday night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Little Rock. Not a good baseball team. I saw them in Oxford a few weeks ago.
I know fans don't like this, but baseball happens.
Baseball happens. That's an astute observation. That's fair. So just happened to notice that. Let's see. Yeah, Thursday night is actually South Carolina, Alabama's tonight too, but whatever. Arkansas at Auburn is tonight on ESPNU if you're interested in catching some baseball. And then your series for the week, Mississippi State at Tennessee. For the Bulldogs, it feels like that's just a series they have to win and maybe even get 3. It's because of how good the West is. It's like what Ole Miss had to deal with Alabama and Missouri earlier in the year. If you don't win every one of them, you feel like you've let games slip away against some of these more inferior teams in the league.
Sure.
It's strange because we never talk about sweeps necessary, but for some reason this season, it feels kind of necessary based on how good the West is. So, don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah, Kentucky at Missouri for your meaningless series. Vanderbilt at Georgia, that'll be a good one. Vanderbilt getting a lot of tough teams out of the way early this season. They're at the Georgia Bulldogs. That's number 5 nationally against number 4 nationally. And then a pretty key early series in Baton Rouge. Texas A&M in town. The Aggies and the Tigers from Alex Box this weekend. Starting at 8 o'clock on Friday night. So just a little rundown of what's going there. Ole Miss and Florida, obviously 6:30 for their opener on Friday. It's Grove Bowl weekend. They're going to play 7 o'clock Saturday too, so a couple night games in a row here for the Rebels and the Gators, and maybe the weather will hold off. It looks a little iffy on Saturday, Neal. It looks like we might even have a wet Grove Bowl if everything hits right.
The Nissan Grove Bowl. It's at 3 o'clock. It's part of a lot of things that are going on campus baseball over the weekend. Florida. At 6:30 on Friday night, 7 on Saturday, 1:30 on Sunday. There's tennis on Sunday as well. So there's a lot going on campus, and yeah, the weather weather's iffy. You never know. Every coach in the country would like his spring game lightninged out.
Lightninged out.
No question.
So is it a 90-minute or a 120-minute window?
120 minutes, I think. I think it's
2 hours.
I think it's 2 hours that you have to fill.
Okay, but you can fill it however you want, correct?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. But
what's Matt said about format?
Just offense versus defense. They don't have enough healthy bodies to go out there and do a draft, if you will. They're going to have a scrimmage, and since the scrimmage is on TV, it's going to be really vanilla. This is what it is. People are going to complain about it. It's football. If you want to see football, they'll play football. If you're hoping to see what they're going to look like in September, you're going to be disappointed because they're not going to show you that.
Are they giving the defense a bunch of points, then making the offense have to catch them, or what?
Yeah.
Are we going to have a winner?
I guess they'll have a winner.
I'm just asking. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I think there'll be a winner. But
Okay.
it's going to be a scrimmage. The defense is going to start ahead something to nothing and go from there.
I mean, really indicative of how the season's going to go, in my opinion. So.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. We'll come back on Monday with the podcast with all the hot takes. We'll be able to make the full. This will give us everything we need to see to make the predictions for the fall. By the way, it's men's tennis versus Arkansas Pine Bluff at 1 p.m. on Sunday. So
Did you screw that up or just not mention it?
no, I didn't screw it up. I didn't give a time though. I just knew there was men's. It's at 1 o'clock. Arkansas Pine Bluff is the opponent. That's at 1 o'clock. Baseball Friday night at 6:30. The Grove Bowl at 3. Baseball at 7. Men's tennis at 1. Baseball at 1:30.
Was Pine Bluff the women's team that Arkansas played like 9 times in a day to get NCAA eligible last year?
That sounds familiar, so I will guess yes.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Still don't understand why they agreed to it. I get why Arkansas wanted to do it, but why would Pine Bluff be your guinea pig?
Why not?
I mean, really though?
I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to do it, but maybe there was some money in it for them.
Okay. Like under the table money? Are you accusing Arkansas women's tennis of cheating?
Not at this point. We're still waiting on some scholarship information, so absolutely not.
They are completely above board right now, in your opinion.
They are a shining beacon on the top of a hill.
Gotcha. Oh, who are they hiring as a basketball coach?
The greatest coach in the history of the world. I don't know who, but he will be awesome.
Okay. Mike Anderson's career over, or is he going somewhere else?
You're asking me questions that I have a hard time answering.
Asking for your opinion.
I can tell you that my daughter, the future Arkansas Razorback, is really locked into this coaching search.
Really interested on who she'll be woo-pigging here soon?
Just fascinated by it.
How's her woo-pig? Is it pretty good? Have you seen it?
I've seen her do it once.
Okay.
She did
Doing it the first time is probably a little awkward, honestly, because it's a strange little deal you have to pull off.
Yeah, I saw her do it at the Ole Miss Arkansas basketball game.
Okay.
She and her future roommate. They got their dorm room yesterday. They got the room. They got the room they were hoping to get, so they were excited.
They had a room they were eyeing.
Well, they had a floor they were eyeing, and they got on that floor, so they were excited. But she's really focused right now on the basketball search and on Arkansas spring football. She's very locked in. She's pumped.
Chad Morris, and here we go.
Oh, she's breaking down depth charts. It runs in the family. It's unbelievable. Breaking them down.
Could she name one current or former Arkansas athlete in any sport?
No.
None?
No. I mean, maybe Scotty Thurman because he got her tickets to a basketball game.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. That's fair. All right. Again, go to rebelgrove.com. You can read the Dillard story. You can read recruiting. You can read whatever else is there, including participating in our community on the message board. Yes, there is a website. There is a message board. We'd love for you to subscribe if you do not. And we'll talk to you again. Appreciate listening.